Good evening, ladies. I'm here with a quick project share and also a short tutorial. Many of you have seen these before, and I believe there's a couple of tutorials out there already on them, but I wanted to share the way that I made mine. I got the idea to do this when I saw a good friend of mine, Lisa, had them the other day when we were at a crop, and she had made a couple of them, and she had told me how she made them, and so I wanted to give it a try. And I like the way that they came out. I also like that when you make them on your own, you can add any colors that you want and any embellishments that you want. So I really like that. I like to be able to customize my items. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how I made this. The things that you're going to need, let me set those to the side. The things that you're going to need are floral wire, and you can get this from Michael's or really any craft store. It comes in this big long brown container, and you can find it in the same aisle that has the hot glue, and it has a lot of the floral tape and whatnot. It does come in green, it comes in white, and I believe it comes in other colors as well, but there's a lot of green, and I just picked up the green. It doesn't matter though because you're going to be able to paint it. So you need these. You also need whatever color paint you want to work with. For these I mixed white and pink paint, and this is just called white, and this one is called Rosy Posy, and they're both from Craft Smart. It's just whatever's cheapest at Michael's that's what I get. And lastly, you're just going to need whatever embellishments you're going to want to put on the flower. For mine, I used a lot of wild orchid craft flowers. I also used some beads that I had, and I'll show you how I got those on the wire. And then I just used some flower stamens, and I believe these were from the wedding section. I want to say at Hobby Lobby, but I know that they carry them in all of your major craft stores. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. The first step, you're going to need 2 of these green wires, and let me see if I can expand out just a little bit for this part, and I'll zoom in when I'm actually putting it together, but I know I'm going to go off frame, so I might as well just zoom out now. These are going to be a little too long. Now what I do to make it a little easier for myself, and I'll explain why in just a minute, I go ahead and I cut about 4 or 5 inches off of just one of the wires. It would help if they would actually work. Alright, and just be careful that you're kind of in wide open space. You don't want that to go flying and hit anyone. But alright, so the reason why I do that, after I make the necessary cut, I move it up so that it's kind of in the middle so that you have an equal length on each side that doesn't have that, and it just makes it easier when you're bending this at the very end. It just makes it easier to bend if you have just one that you're finishing up on the ends, and it's easier if I show you what I mean. So the first step is just twining these together. There's really no particular way you do it. You just kind of bend them so they're together. Assembling the heart is the hardest part of this, only because it's thicker wire, so it's a little bit trickier to do. And it doesn't have to be, you know, completely swirled around. It doesn't have to be straight, just kind of bend it. And then when I get to the end here, this is where it's kind of tricky, and sometimes you might need a tool to help you. I have this. It's not the right tool. I just have it from beading, but anything that, you know, any kind of pliers will work for this. Okay, so once you've got it kind of wound together and you're happy with it, now you're going to make your heart. And to make your heart, you want to find the middle of your wire. So my middle's right here, and I'm going to make kind of a little curve. That's going to be this part of my heart. So you're going to make kind of a curve down. And I start by trying to make my outer curves first. And then once I like the looks of those, that's when I can start sewing the heart. Okay, so if you look at mine, that's a little too small. Well, actually that one's a little too big. So then I go back and adjust. And with this wire, you can, I find a lot of times if I've made a mistake, I just completely unbend it and then start over, and that's the best for me. Okay, so that's a little more symmetrical there. Okay, so that's going to be my heart, and I want to say I'm pretty happy with it. So now, and you'll see why I've cut off those pieces at the end now, because what you're going to do now is you actually want to start folding this. So you're going to hold it together because this wire will kind of pop out. You're going to want to bend this part around the bottom here. And you just bend it around. And when you get to where there's just a short little bit left, just like down here, I just cut that off. I have it facing towards the back, and then I just cut it off. Because it's too hard to bend unless you have, if you have pliers, you could bend it back. And I know I have some of them somewhere, but I can't be bothered to find them. Okay, so now I'm just going to do the other side. And again, I'm going to take that one strand and wrap it around. And this is why I cut off that part when we first began, because it's much harder to wrap the two of them around it than the one. Okay, so let me make sure this one is bent down. And then I'm going to, just like the other one, I'm going to trim. And I recommend holding your hand over it when you're doing this at home. I want you to be able to see what I'm doing though, so I'm not covering it because of the video, so I'm trying to go kind of slowly. My one of my dogs is in the bed right next to me, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't want to be hit with one of these pieces of metal, so I'm trying to shield her from that. Okay, so there's your heart. Now, once you have your heart, you've got the hardest part out of the way. And let me see if I can zoom in a little bit, because now I'm going to show you actually how to kind of make the heart. Okay, so this is, like I said, the hardest part. And then the next step is paint it. When I paint it, I hold it, use my brush, paint it on the back, and I do heat dry it, and it goes very fast. I normally do 2 coats just to be sure it's going to cover everything. Okay. And I have one already done. And like I said, I used just the Craft Smart white and the Rosy Posy to achieve this color. You could do any color. You could do, I've done some with white. My friend did some with greens and blues, and it came out absolutely stunning. Okay, so the next part, you could just do flowers. You could just glue flowers and glue little stones on them. But one of the things I liked about Prima's is that they have these little stems coming off. So I wanted mine to be like that as well. So to make those, you're going to need wire. And I'm just using 26 gauge wire. And you get this in the beading section. I know it comes in gold or silver. It may even come in other colors, but I just picked up the silver. You don't see it enough to really care what color it is, at least I don't. And to make little things that you can twirl around it like that, you start by stringing your bead. You hold the 2 pieces down, you hold them with your finger and thumb, and with your other finger and thumb you twist. And what I do is I hold tight right here because I want to make sure that top part is twisted. And sometimes I'll kind of hold the end and make sure, because I want to make sure that that wire is twisted all the way up at the top. Okay, and once that's done, you just kind of twirl. Be careful when it gets to the end, because the little metal part will poke you up, or it'll poke you. And so I just kind of press it down on the mat to finish off. So there you go. And I've gone ahead and done all the ones I wanted. I try to make it even on each side. So I've got 2 pearls. I've got 2 little crystals. Well, yes, 2 little crystals, 2 of these crystals, and I should have 2 pink ones. One of them rolled away. Okay, so now I have all of those. And then I also go ahead and get my flowers together that I want, and I sort of almost lay them out how I'm going to want them to make sure I like the way it looks. Because once I start gluing, I don't want to get up and find other things to put on it. I just want to glue everything down and be ready. Okay, so I've got all the stuff I want. I've also got some of these that I can tuck into places a little bit later. And I have 2 of these as well. And all of these flowers are from Wild Orchid Crafts. I love their mini rosebuds. They're my favorite flowers. I use them on everything. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do, and let me move this out just a tiny bit. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is I want to twist around my beads. Okay, so these are some of the bigger ones, so I want them kind of near the bottom. Okay. So I'm going to see where I want it. I'm going to hold it down with my thumb, and then I'm going to twist around the bottom with that part. So that's why I like to leave a lot hanging off, because I do twist it around. And then this is, what's nice is it's flexible, so once you glue your flowers down, you can kind of move that how you want. So if it's not in the exact right place right now, don't worry about it. And I'm just going to do the same thing with the other ones now. I'm going to decide where I want them. I'm just going to bend the wire around, and I'm going to place them along the hearts. Okay, so there we have it, and right now it kind of looks like a mess. Like I said, don't worry about it, because once we start gluing things down, you're going to be able to bend them and move them how you want. Okay, so the next step, last step for making our heart, well, I'm sorry, next to last step for making our heart beautiful is we are going to start adding flowers. Now the one down here in the middle, I'm going to go ahead and use this. Let me zoom in just a tiny bit so you can see a little better. Okay, and I'm going to try not to move the flower too much while I'm doing this so I don't go off frame, but I put a lot of glue. A lot. That way I know it's going to stay exactly in the middle where I want it to be. And just hold it for a second, that way the glue sets. Okay, so now once I'm here, now I start to kind of move my beads a little bit to how I want them. This one I'll probably move kind of to the inside. And that's what's nice about having these on wires. You can kind of move them around to however you want them. This one I'll probably have kind of close to the flowers. Move that one up, that one up. That for now. Okay. Alright, and I do see some wire poking out here, so I'm definitely going to be adding my little pink rosebuds. Just have to stop every few seconds, make sure I'm still in frame. And what I do is I just glue it down. If you leave some of the stem on, don't worry, when the glue dries we're going to wrap it around. And just make sure when you're gluing that you're not gluing on top of your beads. I do that a lot, especially if I'm not really paying attention. Okay. So then, like I was saying, just hold on to your flower and kind of twist the green around back. And we will add some hot glue to that later so that flower definitely stays in place. And then these are the last little things that I add, and what I do is I just take them and I do just cut. So I'm left with two little pearls. And there's really no secret to this. I just put a big blob of glue and just kind of put the stem wherever I want it to be and hold on to it for a minute, and it will set as your glue starts to dry. And they just kind of look like tucked in pearls. I'm trying to pull it out. Right there. And I like everything to be symmetrical. Well, sort of symmetrical with some human error in there and placing things, but I do like things to be symmetrical. You, of course, can do it however you want. Actually, let me try to move this pearl. That's what's nice about the wires. If something's too long, you just kind of push and it'll bend the wire a little bit. Okay, so now I'm going to place these other two as well. So again, I'm just going to fold it, cut the stem off. And I'll probably place these kind of in the front here. And again, just a blob of glue, and then just kind of put your stem there. And it'll hold. I'll have them push down a little bit further, so I just hold it for a minute, wait for it to dry. And as you can see, this part's pretty easy, just kind of putting things on there however you want them. Okay. And if you have all those little kind of wispy glue strands, you can just hit it with a heat dryer and it'll take those away, and I just kind of pull them off. Okay. Now the last step, and this is probably not necessary, but it is something that I do. I pick up my flour, I turn it over, and anywhere I see gaps, I just start putting glue. And I feel like that just kind of seals everything into place. Now I don't want to put glue so much that, you know, you start to see it in the front. But anywhere there's like a little space, I just start putting glue. Okay. And give it a second to dry before you set it down. But we're on to our last step now, and this is an optional step. You could leave this exactly the way it is and it would be gorgeous. I love the way that Prima has theirs glittery, so that's what I'm going to do, is just add the glitter now. Really simple. And also you can, you know, customize yours a little bit more this way. I just add stickles. And I start by holding the flower, and I'm just using the diamond stickles. I use it for everything. And I just apply the stickles very sloppily. And then I'm also going to put it on some flowers. Again, I don't do this carefully, it's just quick. That's why I like these flowers, because they're pretty quick to put together and the end result is beautiful.